Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Today, folks, we got a lot to talk about. The first thing is, of course, the January 6th committee hearing is happening as we speak. We just want to get some of your thoughts, check in with the live feed. We'll have a more robust conversation later on tomorrow as this hearing continues to happen. Also, I want to talk about President Trump and his numbers among the GOP. The fact is, folks, half of the GOP are talking about leaving Trump. Does that mean that Trumpism is over? We'll have that conversation. Plus, let's talk about home ownership. We'll be checking in with NeighborWorks to discuss why it is the challenges of Black homeowners. And then later, I wanted to have a discussion about what we're seeing around this country, folks, around the issue of not just home ownership, but also looking into the let me pull this up very quickly. The issue of why we're moving in the direction that we're moving in this country, right? Looking at how has all of this has been affecting us. We'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and riding along with us this afternoon. Man, oh man, so many things are happening right now as we speak. The big thing that is happening, of course, is coming out of Washington, D.C. with the latest around the January 6th committee hearings. Today's hearing is focused on how President Trump and Trump allies are connected to far-right extremist groups such as the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Now, this has been a running theme throughout the course of these hearings, and today they really wanted to key in on the fact of the big connection, the links between the White House and what we're seeing with these white supremacist groups and militias. The other part of this is, of course, that the big news also comes out of the fact that Steve Bannon, who is a close Trump ally, is not even enough to say a former Trump ally, but close Trump ally is now moving forward with giving his testimony as well on the latest situation relating to January the 6th, after President Trump has given him the go-ahead to give his testimony. And the president said in a letter to Steve Bannon said that, go out there and essentially tell the truth of what you know, and pretty much went into a rant about discrediting the work, the efforts, and the evidence that the January 6th committee has been presenting to the country. Now, with this serving as the backdrop of this conversation, I wanted to at least talk to you to get your thoughts on where do you see things going. This is another installment of these hearings that have been presenting damning evidence against President Trump, against his administration, and wanted to know, what do you think about how things are moving along so far, especially in light of this latest hearing against the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and other far-right extremist groups. So make sure you post your comments on our social media pages, on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page, and make sure that you share your thoughts around what do you think is going to happen as we're talking about, this is the seventh hearing, as we're talking about moving forward with this whole thing. And we're going to, in a few moments, we're going to just try to get a live feed of what's being discussed as of right now and some of the things that have been said. But I'm watching this thing just as much as you're watching this situation, folks. And I'm thinking to myself, what else needs to be said? What more needs to be said at this point about President Trump, about his involvement with what we saw with the riot of January the 6th? What else needs to be said? Now, some of you might say, well, you know what? There's still, what do they say? There's still something that says that there might not be, it may not be as harsh and as damning as people like to believe. There still might be a sliver of President Trump not being held liable or responsible for this situation of January the 6th. But I would it's hard for me to believe that, folks. It's absolutely hard for me to believe that is the case. All right, let me just jump to and now we're going to take a live look at what's happening right now with the hearings. Share your thoughts. We'll post your comments as well. So check this out as we tune into the January 6th hearing, January 6th committee hearing happening right now in Washington, D.C.
Him a sense of legitimacy, that it was a path forward to move forward with his goals and agendas. I think we need to quit mincing words and just talk about truths. And what it was going to be was an armed revolution. I mean, people died that day. Law enforcement officers died this day. There was a gallows set up in front of the Capitol. This could have been the spark that started a new civil war, and no one would have won there. That would have been good for no one. He was always looking for ways to legitimize what he was doing, whether by wrapping it in the trappings of it's not a militia, it's a community preparedness team. We're not a militia, we're an educational outreach group. It's a veteran support group. But again, we've got to stop with this dishonesty and the mincing of words and just call things for what they are. He's a militia leader. He had these grand visions of being a paramilitary leader, and the Insurrection Act would have given him a path forward with that. The fact that the president was communicating, whether directly or indirectly, messaging, kind of that gave him the nod. And all I can do is thank the gods that things did not go any worse that day.
What did the Oath Keepers see in President Trump?
They saw a path forward that would have legitimacy. They saw opportunity, I think, in my opinion, to become a paramilitary force.
Last week, the Department of Justice indicated that it has evidence of the Oath Keepers bringing not just firearms, but explosives to Washington ahead of January 6th. And the committee's also learned that Stewart Rhodes stopped to buy weapons on his way to Washington and shipped roughly $7,000 worth of tactical gear to a January 6th rally planner in Virginia before the attack. Did you ever hear Rhodes discuss committing violence against elected political leaders?
Yeah, I mean, that went back from the very beginning of my tenure. One of the first assignments that he brought to me, wanting me to do as more of a graphic artist function, was to create a deck of cards. You may remember back to the conflict in the Middle East, where our own military created a deck of cards, which was a who's who of kind of the key players on the other side that they wanted to take out. And Stewart was very intrigued by that notion and influenced by it, I think. And he wanted me to create a deck of cards that would include different politicians, judges, including up to Hillary Clinton as the Queen of Hearts. This is a project that I refused to do. But from the very start, we saw that. There was always the push for military training, including there were courses in that community that went over explosives training. So yeah, this all falls in line.
Mr. Van Tatenhoff, you say in your very thoughtful written testimony that we received today that you fear what the next election cycle will bring. And you also say that we have been exceedingly lucky in that we have not seen more bloodshed so far. I wonder if you would elaborate on those two statements.
I think as far as the luck goes, we've had the potential from Bundy Ranch on. I mean, being boots on the ground at these standoffs, and they were standoffs where there were firearms pointed across lines at federal law enforcement agencies, whatever it may be with that particular standoff. But I think we've gotten exceedingly lucky that more bloodshed did not happen, because the potential has been there from the start. And we got very lucky that the loss of life was, and as tragic as it is, that we saw on January 6th, the potential was so much more. Again, all we have to look at is the iconic images of that day with the gallows set up for Mike Pence, for the Vice President of the United States. And I do fear for this next election cycle, because who knows what that might bring. If a president that's willing to try to instill and encourage to whip up a civil war amongst his followers using lies and deceit and snake oil, and regardless of the human impact, what else is he going to do if he gets elected again? All bets are off at that point. And that's a scary notion. I have 3 daughters. I have a granddaughter. And I fear for the world that they will inherit if we do not start holding these people to account.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Van Tatenhoff. Mr. Ayers, I first want to ask you about what finally caused you to leave on January the 6th. We know that the medieval style combat with our police, the occupation of the building, this was going on for several hours until the president issued at 4:17 a tweet, I believe, included a video telling people to go home. Did you see that, and did that have any effect on what you were doing?
Well, when we were there, as soon as that come out, everybody started talking about it, and it seemed like it started to disperse, some of the crowd. Obviously, once we got back to the hotel room, we seen that it was still going on, but it definitely dispersed a lot of the crowd.
And did you leave at that point?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we left.
So in other words, that was the key moment when you decided to leave, when President Trump told people to go home.
Yeah, we left right when that come out.
You were not a member of an organized group like the Oath Keepers or the Proud Boys, as most of the crowd wasn't. I wonder, on January 6th, was it your view that these far-right groups like the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys and 3%ers and others were on your side? Did you have any reservations about marching with them and rallying with them?
Well, I definitely didn't have a problem. I was probably following them online myself. I thought, hey, they're on our team. Good. That's how I kind of looked at it at the time. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was a good thing.
I'm interested in hearing about what's happened to you since the events of January 6th. You told the vice chair that you no longer believe Trump's big lie about the election, but that's what brought you originally to Washington. Looking back on it now, how do you reflect on the role that you played in the crowd that day, and what is going on in your life?
Basically, I lost my job. Since this all happened, pretty much sold my house. So everything that happened with the charges, thank God, a lot of them did get dismissed, because I was just holding my phone, but at the same time I was there. So I mean, it definitely, it changed my life, not for the good, definitely not for the, for the better. Yeah, I mean,
well,
really I could say.
President Trump is still promoting the big lie about the election. How does that make you feel?
It makes me mad, because I was hanging on every word he was saying. Everything he was putting out, I was following it. I mean, if I was doing it, hundreds of thousands or millions of other people are doing it, or maybe even still doing it. It's like he just said about that, you got people still following and doing that. who knows what the next election could come out, you know, could end up being down the same path we are right now. I mean, just don't know.
Mr. Ayers, I see that your wife has joined you today, and welcome to Washington. We know this has been very difficult on you both and your family. What lessons, finally, do you want the American people to learn from the way you and your family have suffered as a result of these events?
Biggest thing is I consider myself a family man, and I love my country. And I don't think any one man is bigger than either one of those. I think that's what needs to be taken. You know, people dive into the politics, and for me, I felt like I had, you know, like horse blinders on. I was locked in the whole time. Biggest thing for me is take the blinders off, make sure you step back and see what's going on before it's too late.
Well, I want to thank you for your testimony and for appearing, both of you, today. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back to you.
Gentleman yields back.
Folks, what you just heard were two of the rioters that were on the ground there in D.C. on January the 6th. The first gentleman was Mr. Jason Tatenhove, excuse me. He was a former Oath Keeper spokesperson. The second person is Stephen Ayers, who, as you know, as you just heard, talking about the things that he had to deal with as a result of his participation in January the 6th. Now, I want to be very clear. I want to be super clear about this whole situation, folks, and certainly post your comments. Let's get to your thoughts on this. Because these men decided to testify today doesn't put them in a space of being heroes. It just doesn't. You know, it's hard for me to personally wrap my mind around this thinking that, you know, because you had a quote unquote change of heart today, that all is well and good. When in reality, you were a part of a situation that for so many people, I mean, yeah, I think the best word that Jason Tatenhove used was lucky. Was lucky. I mean, yeah, you know, Stephen Ayers talked about losing his job and his home and what their family had to suffer. But what about the police officers that went to work that day who had to endure that? What about the fact that, you know, we're having a conversation about January the 6th, but in as a double standard to the marches, the protests that we've seen with Black Lives Matter, I don't know if the same type of compassion would have been extended to young Black people, to Black people who were marching and protesting, if our people were on the mall that day, showing that type of behavior. I want to get to your thoughts, because it's you know what I mean? It's like, don't start crying those crocodile tears now. And if you have a real change of heart, okay, that's fine. You decided to speak out of it, but you decided to speak out after punishment, after consequences. You mean to tell me you didn't know that you were going down this rabbit hole of deceit, this rabbit hole of trickery during this time, the whole time? And now you're just like, now you're starting to feel the brunt of the United States government. And it's like, all right, let's go to some of your thoughts very quickly, and then we'll take our first pause. Brother King Lee checked in. Brother King Lee, good to hear from you, big bro. The Democrats on this committee, for the most part, too meek. I want to see some thunder coming from them. King, that's the same thing I was thinking. Like, where is the strong indictment? The same, look, We saw more thunder, King, when Ketanji Brown Jackson was being vetted. We saw more from Lindsey Graham and all them guys, right? Ted Cruz. We saw more thunder. It was clear that they wanted to show the American people that they didn't like her. For this, it's too much compassion. If what these individuals did in terms of disrupting or uprooting or interfering with the democratic process and disturbing the democracy, attacking democracy, we should be seeing more thunder, especially from the Democrats, because now it's their committee. Like you know what I mean? A real indictment. And I think part of the strategy, and King, you might be seeing the same thing, brother. I think part of the strategy is they want to put it out there to the American people that you know, one, that they are taking the high road, and two, they're also trying to show the American people like we just want to get to the facts and less emotion, which is fine. But there are some real consequences to this. There are some real consequences to this. I'm not convinced that any of these guys are have been fully redeemed as a result of this situation. I'm not convinced. All right, let's go back. King, good to talk to you, brother. McCole checked in and said, so what this dude is saying is that he suffered some consequences, lost his job, house, etc., for trying to overthrow the United States government. That's what I'm hearing too, McCole. Okay, that's what you get. That's what you get. Like, you came to the mall to disrupt and overthrow the government. And now you want us to feel sad and pity because you lost your job in your home. Man, you better be lucky you ain't dead. Willie Frazier checking in. Nicole, thank you so much, sis. Willie checking in. Good to hear from you, Willie. The thing is, hundreds of laws have been passed on this lie that impact our vote. What's going to be done about that? Perfect question. Great question. As a result of January the 6th, right? As a result of January the 6th, as a result of what Trump did and has continued to promote, what is going to be done about that? These are small, like minion style. These are minions in the big scheme of things, folks. And I want to use that word because I want to put the proper context. Like, you know, these Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, these are like minions in the big scheme of things. Because we still got to deal with the laws. We still got to deal with the fact that President Trump is even talking about announcing his bid for president, even after all of this. So okay, you know, a couple of rioters here and a couple of rioters there get a little bit of punishment and suffer some consequences. But guess what? President Trump could still announce he's running for president for 2024. Willie, thank you so much, brother. TL, he said, TL says it looks like to stay out of prison. Yep, absolutely. TL, thank you for checking in. Danita, let's hear from you. Danita said, nope, and I am speaking for myself. They get no compassion here after they overthrow the government. People that look like me would be next. Get the F out of here. I know what you're trying to say, Danita. I got you, sis. But you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Again, let's put this in a proper context, folks. With this, and I think that the Democrats have to be very, very careful of how they present these stories or these narratives of these individuals who are deciding to, quote unquote, turn a new leaf. Again, Steve Bannon is talking about testifying. Do you really believe that a person like Steve Bannon, who has already shown his colors, he gets before the January 6th committee and he puts out his story and he wants that level of pity or sympathy, or he wants the public opinion to be on his side? Do you really believe he changed his views about President Trump? Really? Do you absolutely believe that? Danita, thank you so much, sis. Rashida Rashida, always good to hear from you. You said the Democrats are too meek. Eye rolls. Too meek. And look, the fact that the reason that Congressman Benny Thompson isn't running this installment of the hearing is because Congressman Jamie Raskin, who you just saw there, he's been studying white supremacy groups, far right extremist groups for years. That's his niche. That's his niche. Why not bring the hammer down? I read in one piece from the New York Times about the work that he's been doing in his study and research, that he's really striving to get to the root of these far right extremist groups. He has to bring the hammer down. And I can't emphasize this enough, Rashida, and so many of you that are tuning in. We can't emphasize this enough. The fact remains that this story of what happened on January the 6th and all of that happened behind the scenes and in front of the cameras is made up of individual stories. Is made up of individual stories. So they're trying to humanize those who are testifying, are trying to humanize themselves, or trying to stand out from being a part of the mob, quote unquote, right? So they're trying to humanize their own personal stories. They're trying to humanize their cause. We just love this country. We're all about making sure that this country. So black people don't love this country because we've suffered. We fought. We add to the tax rate. We built this country. So where's the humanity when we tell our part of the story? Nah. Belinda checking in and said, Belinda said, Rashida, thank you, sis. Belinda checked in. Belinda, you say, can we at least get someone charged with the side of RICO, the RICO charge? I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I'm right there with you, Belinda. I'm right there with you, sis. Now, I was watching MSNBC last night, and they were saying that 121 rioters have already been charged as a result of the January 6th situation. Only 121. Look how many people were on that mall. Look how many people engaged in a level of violence. Only 121. Let's go back. Let's go and let me hear. And Willie, you brought something up, and I want to put Willie's statement back right up here. Willie, you said, I believe Bannon can change because of Trump 2.0 DeSantis. Yeah. I want to have a conversation about Governor Ron DeSantis and why people are leaving Trump support because they're going to Ron DeSantis to support. They're going to Ron DeSantis. So as a result of that, we might be seeing some things. But I'm tired of being lied to. I don't know about you folks. I am absolutely tired of being lied to in regards to what we saw with our very eyes. I'm tired of being lied to about where we are in this country. I'm tired of being lied to as if we are so slow, and it's an insult to our intelligence to make us believe that Trump is a patriot, that his followers are patriots, that they really want to see the good of this country, because the good of this country does not include the interests of us. So as a result of what we've been seeing, folks, it's just a lot of storytelling. And I really hope, and I don't know if Mr. Raskin was the right person. I mean, again, I know he has expertise. He studied this, but I'm talking about where's going back to my man, King Lee. Where's the thunder? They got a new movie out right now called Thor, Love and Thunder. We got too much damn love and not enough thunder right now in this hearing. Where's the damn thunder? Where is the hammer of justice? Where is it? Because just as much as we are talking about Trump supporters, the conversation has always gone back to us as black folks in this country, that if that was us, but our stories be felt and told in this way, if that was us, would we be seen as patriots? If that was us, would we get slapped on the wrist? It wouldn't just be 121 rioters charged, it'd be thousands of protesters charged. Sedition, treason. They be locking us up and throwing away the key, and then still trying to throw the book at us. Come on, man. Come on, stop playing. Stop playing. So we can't fall for that okie doke, man. I'm disappointed, folks. I am very disappointed right now with the softness, because if this was this was supposed to be one of the most brazen attacks on democracy. And even though wanted to hear the stories, I mean, which one of our political officials is going to be like, wait a minute, man, hold up. I mean, you literally were trying to kill me. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you would have seen my face that day and you were within shooting range that day, you would have tried to kill me. Now we want to have a very sober, civilized conversation. Would you have a civilized conversation with somebody who runs up in your house? You running out the back door, they running in the front door, they're feet away from attacking you and your family. Would you want to have a sober, civilized conversation if you had the opportunity to talk to them? It's absolutely insane. And as we wrap up this part of the discussion, folks, keep all of that same energy as you go to the polls. As we go to the polls this election cycle, and even up to November, I know states have primaries across the country, you know, throughout the summer, getting into the fall. But let's keep all the same energy. Let's not forget. And one of the big things that we often see in this country is that we forget. We forget. Even if a situation happened a couple of months ago, we forget because the narrative has been changed. And so we can't forget. This is not saying you should vote for Republican. This is not saying you should vote for Democrat. I'm saying we need to vote our interests and not forget all that has led us up to this point. That's all I'm saying. But this is too soft for me. Too soft. If this is supposed to be the great attack on democracy, the conversation is soft for me. Too soft. These guys aren't heroes. These guys you were part of a mob that killed people. Hey, you try to overthrow the government. Too soft. Too soft. Not because I'm a huge, I'm this big fan of the United States American government. It's too soft because that's not justice. It's not justice. Because no one else could do that. That's that white privilege. No one else can do something like that and be treated the way we're seeing these guys being treated right now. Even though they lost their home, you can get another place to live. Even though you lost your job, you can find another job. And you got charges dropped against you after there is evidence that you were trying to overthrow the United States government. America is showing her cards right now and her true colors. And we can't forget that when we go to the polls. Folks, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about Black home ownership. We're going to be checking in with a group called NeighborWorks and the work that they're doing to get more Black folks in homes across the country. We'll have that conversation later. I wanted to have a discussion about college, because people are asking, with given inflation, given the pandemic, given where we are in this country, is college really worth it at this point? We'll have those two big conversations up next, and we'll be checking in with our culture crew member, Lise Winnie. So stay with us. A lot to get to in the next hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and being a part of the conversation today. for the first hour, if just for a little bit of the first hour, if you didn't have an opportunity to tune in, we just played we just had a live look of the January 6th committee that is happening as we speak right now. Just hearing a couple of the testimonies from two rioters who were present on the ground on January the 6th to hear their stories as it relates to their belief in President Trump, or lack of belief at this point, and the consequences of their participation with the January 6th riot and insurrection. So we talked a little bit about that. If you didn't have a chance to tune in, make sure y'all take a look back at the replay. And one of my big things is making sure that as you hear their stories, keep in mind, folks, these were the same people that would do whatever that needs to be taken to follow President Trump, to kill political officials, and to disrupt the American democratic system. So we saw that, and now we're hearing a different tune from these rioters who've had a quote unquote change of heart as a result of that. So that conversation happened just a little bit before this break. But I wanted to shift gears and have another discussion with us today as we're looking at some other issues. Now, here's one of the big issues that we're finding, that as a result of the pandemic, as a result of inflation, and as a result of what we're seeing as part of the economic landscape in this country, there is another, just an ongoing threat to the livelihood of Americans, especially Black folks in this country, and that is home ownership. And today we wanted to have a conversation with our special guest who represents Neighbor Works America, which is a group that is going to that is putting in time and work and effort to make sure that Black folks in particular are back in homes, are getting homes, are getting access to land, and not getting the short end of the stick when it comes to claiming some part of this country. And so today we wanted to have a conversation about the challenges of home ownership, especially with Black buyers. And we wanted to have this discussion with Ms. Leigh Ann Adams, who serves as the Senior Vice President of National Initiatives for Neighbor Works America. We're also going to be joined by Millennials Anonymous podcast host, Lise Winning, to be a part of this conversation. But Leigh Ann, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us this afternoon. How are you today?
I'm fine. Actually, I'm Michelle Hudgens. Leanne's not able to join us today, but I'm Michelle Hudgens.
Michelle, you came on. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I apologize for that.
No problem. But
Michelle,
I'm happy to be here. I think it's an important topic for us to be talking about for sure.
Absolutely. Michelle, we truly appreciate that. Michelle, talk to me a little bit about where we are with this home ownership situation. First and foremost, give us an understanding of it, because we know that Neighbor Works America, you just put out a 2022 survey to look at where we are in this country with Black owners, Black buyers trying to get into homes, and the impact of both the pandemic and inflation. So what's going on with that, Michelle?
So, when we look at the issue of home ownership in particular, we already know that there are challenges and there's a gap between the rest of America and Black America, Hispanic America, and even Native Americans. But what we know in particular right now, that the home ownership rate is 56%. But when you look at African Americans, that number is down to about 40 to 42%. It's improving, but 40 to 42% are the numbers that we saw when we first saw home ownership initiatives in the 60s. Like, it hasn't changed in years. So that's first and foremost. But then with the economic challenges with COVID and the economy right now, the barriers to home ownership in terms of down payment assistance, the ability to actually qualify for a loan or a mortgage, how much people need in their savings to be able to pay for all the other expenses associated with that, those are also rising. And so we're working hard every day to lower those barriers, to make it more accessible, to give people access to the information, the coaching, the housing counseling services, access to affordable loans and first time pay mortgages, so that they can too become homeowners and stabilize their lives, build traditional generational wealth for their families, and then also stabilize themselves. Because so many people coming out of COVID and landlords raising rents and people wanting to take back homes and sell them to take advantage of the market, it left a real instability for a lot of people.
So, Michelle, and I'm so happy that you brought up that point, because I feel like people are trying to figure out like where how to navigate this space that we find ourselves in economically, and of course with the market and everything. We've been having a number of conversations, particularly here on this show, with realtors and other analysts looking at the market, who's saying, "Hey, man, it's a volatile market." I remember having discussions with my culture crew about the cost of housing in some of your big cities, especially in the southern part of the country, Atlanta and Houston and other places. Rent has gone up crazy all around this country, as a result of things. And I'm wondering, I have to ask this question, Michelle, how is it that banks, mortgage companies are able to like talk about, well, we're in this together, right, with this pandemic, and yet the rates don't reflect any type of understanding that people may have lost their jobs. The rates don't reflect the understanding that inflation has certainly happened in this country. That it just seems like everybody is, and I'm speaking of from that side of the conversation, banks and mortgage lenders and other folks in the housing market, everybody is just so quick to jump back to quote unquote getting back to normal without a real consideration for where people are right now economically.
So, I mean, first and foremost, let's just be very clear. They are for-profit organizations. So, while they
Yeah,
are in it together, they certainly are in it with each other. What we're talking about is getting people more access. NeighborWorks America, we have 250 network organizations across the country. These are nonprofit organizations that are actually working with individuals to help them establish a savings, help them understand how much they need to qualify for a loan or a mortgage, giving them access to down payment assistance programs and other housing counseling services, helping them to understand and navigating and coaching them through the process so that they can become homeowners. So there are those that are working on their side, but then there's also people who are working on on the side of the consumer. And so that's really where we kind of focus. We know that, lack of information and lack of access to the tools is what is keeping people from becoming homeowners. Our survey tells us this. We know that, African Americans, or even everyone actually, they think it's too hard. They think the access to information, it's too expensive. They think they don't have enough money. They think it's too complicated of a process. And when you look at, the communities, the African American community, their number one issue is that they don't have enough money. In the Hispanic community, say they don't have enough money. But that's also the same issue in the white community. They don't have enough money. So we're looking at, there are CDCs, that actually community development corporations that actually provide first-time mortgages at lower, more competitive rates. We actually are looking at what are the kinds of programs that we can partner with other banks and institutions, credit unions and the like, to help people get access. What do they need to improve their credit? What do they need to improve their mortgage friendliness? All of those things. But then also just how are they prepared? You mentioned economic recovery. When we looked at the issue of economic recovery, most people, there's an increase, and this is a scary thought, but there's an increase in the number of people that are prepared for an emergency and they have $500 in their savings, and that's how they consider themselves prepared. But those
yeah,
same people say that, if there was an extended emergency, they could go without 1 month without being at issue. Like that's crazy, right? When I was growing up, you had to have like 2 years of savings. You had to have, your salary, and you needed to prepare for 6 months. But people can go about a month before they are really destitute right now. And
wow,
it's good that, and we're saying it's a good thing that there's more people than ever that say they have more than $500 to manage emergency. On the same side of that, the survey also tells us that these people are saying that it would take them 6 months or more to recover from that. And
yeah,
so there's a disparity there somewhere that we've got to figure out in between, which is that financial capability piece. How do we get people planning better, saving better, understanding how to budget so that they can put money aside for down payment assistance, for their, even if they wanted to rent, for their first month's, last month's, and deposits. Like that's what we need to be working towards.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I want to bring in culture crew member Lise Winnie, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast. Lise, when we hear about some of these big challenges facing Black home buyers, what's going through your mind, and what do you think that needs to happen to kind of close that gap?
Well, I think that Neighbor Works is doing a great job with that, with giving people more information. I think that there is a lack of information for people, and a lot of people don't understand that it's possible. It is something that you can obtain because a lot of people do not know how to get a mortgage. They don't understand that. So I think that that's part of it. Understanding how that system actually works, and then understanding how to save and budget your money. I think that's exactly where we start. But we do have a lot of issues, especially with a lot of African American or predominantly African American or areas of color. The equity rates on those homes tend to be lower. So even if you do purchase those homes, unfortunately, we don't gain as much equity as some other white neighborhoods, which is something else that we need to look into. But as far as getting people into homes, I think that's where you start. You start in showing the benefit of actually owning your home and that it could benefit you in the long run instead of renting, which a
Yeah,
lot of people think it's cheaper to rent.
And these days it's really not. And I think that's one of the things that, we also have found from the survey when the reasons why they're looking for home ownership as a solution is because they do feel like they need more stability because people were asked to pay more for rent. They were asked to move out so that their landlords could sell so that they could actually make money in this growing housing market. And so, having a place to call home, a place that is yours, that you do have equity in, how you build generational wealth, is how you put security and stability into the family and a part of the community. And I think, she does make a good point when we talk about equity. That is also part of the counseling piece, right? It's not just how do you get in the home, but how do you stay in the home, right? How do you continue to practice those things that got you there in terms of financial planning, savings, budgeting, and those things. We don't just leave them once they've gotten into a home, and we make sure that the community as well is invested in that.
absolutely, absolutely. Keena, I want to throw and Michelle, Keena, Keena, if you could throw some of those stats from up on the screen there, bro. That NeighborWorks America has put together. Take a look at this, and then Michelle would love to get your insight on all of these stats. Unexpected financial challenges remain common for most Americans. 61% of those surveyed are concerned the money they have or are saving won't last. 18% have had to move in with family, friends, or roommates due to financial challenges, a rate that is at a 3-year high. Many also delayed moves or plans to look for new housing as a result of financial challenges. And the overall home ownership rate is at 59%, but remains significantly lower for Black and Hispanic Latinx adults. Um, and I want to share this thought and share these with you as well. However, there are encouraging signs. Both groups are displaying more signs of interest in home buying. For people who don't own homes, home ownership often feels outreach. There is a clear and unmet need for support and resources to help them. Now, this is coming out of your survey, Michelle,
Hmm.
that is out there. So we see that there is a huge disparity. We see that there is a lot of work that needs to be done. But do you find that the buyers are at this point, or what is the sentiment of buyers? We know what the sentiment of the banks are. We know what the organizations like NeighborWorks America is doing. But what about the thinking of Black potential homeowners, Latino potential homeowners? Do they feel like, what, they got some real skin in the game?
Well, it's increasing. I'm not going to say they're all the way there, but it's increasing. A couple of things, when you look at the number of people that are moving in to live with someone else or, moving into a roommate experience, part of that is because people are trying to save money. Part of it is because, they can't afford to live on their own, but it's also because they're trying to save money to improve their scenario in the situation. People are still optimistic. They're still looking. They're still trying to find it, but they just need more help. I read a story that was on our website just 2 weeks ago when it was about a family that qualified, they had the money, but what they could afford in the DC metro area wasn't realistic. And so they ended up partnering with our network organization in Baltimore, and they found a home and were able to secure that home and move into it. And now they've begun that home ownership process, right? And now they're homeowners. So I think it's a combination of, one of the things or the challenges that we have as a community is that we don't always seek out help and information. We don't go to the places where, because we don't know about them first, but then also because we feel like it's something else we can't afford. But these are nominal fees, if any fee, to participate in these classes and these programs. But then also on the other side of those programs, they may make you eligible for more and other programs that will help you with down payment assistance. There's programs, I just heard about a program where the USDA has a rural homes program that it actually pays people to move to rural areas. So there's money out there, but there needs to be more. And that's something that has to be a collaboration between, policymakers, private industry like the banks and the businesses, as well as nonprofits and other local leaders coming to the table, making sure that we're not priced out of communities, making sure that when properties are eligible, that they're not taken over with investment properties, and that they're not sold off to the biggest bidder in some magical bid program that's supposed to save the community when it really doesn't.
Absolutely. And the other part is, do you feel like people know? Because I've talked to people who rent, I've talked to people who bought, and they always talking about you got to go out and dig and research and do your research for certain information. Do you feel like that information, like the work that you guys are doing, do you feel like people just know where to go and know how to get the type of help?
No, they don't. On our website, you can, there's a link that actually says where we work, and you can search and find one of our 250 network organizations. But we're not the only ones that are doing this work, right? There's other organizations that are doing it too. But there's also programs inside of some of the banks that people don't know about because they don't research for. Like, instead of trying to find homes or finding a realtor, we need to be seeking out HUD certified housing counselors. And you can go to the HUD's website, and wherever there's a HUD certified housing counselor, that's a place where someone can go to. And that is even farther expansive beyond the NeighborWorks network, which is in every state, the US and Puerto Rico and Guam. But there's also HUD certified housing counselors. There's, several other programs and organizations that are doing this work to particularly help individuals who don't have the information and don't have the access, but we actually have to go get it, right? We can't, we try to partner and get in as many places as we can to share the news. Thank you for giving us this platform to talk about the importance of this information, but we also got to make sure that people are seeking out the right information and not just jumping to the first step, because the first thing we start doing is looking at pictures and going on Realtor and trying to decide we want 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. No, we need to be talking about how much money is it going to cost me? Who can take me through this process? And how can I plan for it so that I can afford it and not break the bank?
So basically, Michelle, you telling us don't start from fantasy, start from reality.
Start where you are and recognize that there's somebody who's going to meet you there, and then we're going to get you to, 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, whatever the case may be. But, shopping on realtor.com or whatever the case may be is not the place to start. It's starting with what can I learn about what I need to do. And there's someone who can help you with that.
Look, trust and believe, I've been down that rabbit hole. You start looking at, this got 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, least. Next thing you know what I'm saying? You're like, yeah, we can afford a $400,000 home. How much you make?
You do the little calculator on the side, and you'll be like, okay. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, well, what if I just do 2 bathrooms? Okay, well, everybody doesn't need their own bed. Then you're just like, do I really need a garage? We don't want to start bargaining with our vision. What we want to start doing is marching with our money. And that starts with getting equipped. And so for the march, we must get equipped by learning what we need to do.
Oh, absolutely. Folks, as we talk to Michelle Hudgens from NeighborWorks America, I want you guys to to post your comments, share your thoughts about what you've been hearing, and posing your questions as well. Because we want to have this opportunity for you to get an understanding about the housing market, the challenges facing Black homeowners, and so much more. Nisa, 1971, you checked in. Nisa, it's always good to hear from you, sis. Nisa, you said it's crazy here in Atlanta, ATL. Prices are high where you can find something to buy. Really low inventory of homes right now. Michelle, can you kind of speak to that? Is Georgia like what's the best way to look at it? Should we say the Atlanta market, or should we look at the Georgia market? You know, when you're talking about some of these big cities, especially in the South, you know, how do you approach that when you do have that low inventory but high demand?
So I think it's two things. One, there is an inventory challenge right now because everyone, including investors, is snapping up anything that might be affordable. There's also high interest rates. So we're going to see the market slow a little bit because it's not as favorable to buy a home right now. But, one of the things that when we think about our vision and when we think about what we're looking for, we may have to not live exactly in the neighborhood we want to, live in. I know I have several friends that live, outside of Atlanta, live 15, 20 minutes outside of Atlanta, and driving 10 minutes down the road or crossing a zip code line could improve your school district. It could make your life more affordable. It could also make your travel a little bit, your commute to work a little challenging, but it might make your lifestyle a little bit better. So I think we have to be open to what it is that we actually need. And we need a roof over our head. We need something that we can afford and something that we're able to maintain. And those are the priorities. And then once you start figuring that out and you open your minds and your idea to what's possible, and then you partner that with the information that you receive, then, you may not be living in Atlanta proper, but most people in Atlanta don't live in Atlanta. They live outside of Atlanta.
That's very
That
true.
seems to be and Michelle, that seems to be the running theme. Whether you're talking about Atlanta, you're talking about DC, talking about Los Angeles, you're talking about
New York.
people,
Right.
New York, exactly. You know what I mean? Like people don't live actually in the city. And I've talked to real estate agents, at least, share with me your thoughts about this. I've talked to a number of people in real estate who say, you know what? If black people wanted to buy homes, don't live in the city. Don't live in those big metropolitan areas anymore. Look in the suburbs, look in the surrounding counties. Have you heard the same thing, Lise?
Well, I've not heard that exactly, but I've heard that there is more opportunity in areas that are not as developed. If you look at the new housing developments, if you're one of the first people to purchase a home, it's typically less expensive because you have to deal with some of the inconvenience of having them build homes. So there is a way for you to build up some equity because you would be the first person in the area, you pay a little bit less. And so you're going to build that up. I think now the biggest risk is a lot of people do want to live in those areas that are very, very expensive. But what they don't realize is the price gouging that happened over the last 2 years was crazy. People were paying $50,000 over asking, and you paid way too much for the home. And I don't think a lot of people understand that you can own a home that's not worth what you paid for. You can be upside down on a mortgage. And so we do need to be very careful with where we live because it is very, very important. But I think moving in those rural areas, Black people have an opportunity to build something and really build some equity.
And equity is that important part, right? Because if you're upside down on your mortgage, then if you decided to sell whatever, you're still not going to get back what you put into it. And that's what you want. You want it to be so that like you're paying down your mortgage and then that's just more money that you have on your shelf, that you have in your safety closet, that you're able to borrow from, that you're able to, the kids decide to go to college, you don't have to take out student loans. You can use this equity from the home to pay for a college and make it more affordable. If you decide you want to go on a vacation every year, you can take out the equity and do that. Not that I would go on vacation with my equity, but unless it was a really good vacation. But I'm not saying I wouldn't. But once in a lifetime opportunities, if you have emergencies, if for some reason you were laid off for 6 months, you can use that equity to do that and you're not going to lose your home. And that's what we mean by equity and what's important. And I think sometimes we prioritize the zip code or what it might look like to everybody on Instagram and not realizing what it actually means to our wallets and what does it mean for our
Right.
long-term stability as a family and generational wealth. Because, right now, where I moved 2 years ago, we didn't have some of the things that we have now, but that's just increased equity, right? And they're continuing to build in that area. So even though I haven't paid my house down a whole bunch, I still have equity because the prices continue to go up. But prices in the city, it's not the same way. They can only build so they're only going to be able to go up. So there's no more access of land in the city, right? So nobody's acquiring more land. So even the part that you live on isn't going to accrue anymore. It's just going to be the market cost, which is not the same thing and which is very fluctuating when it comes to what it means for the wallet. It's not the same thing.
Absolutely. Giselle checked in. Giselle, you said something I think is important, and I appreciate you. You said a lot of blacks from northern states and west are starting to move back down south. It's cheaper to buy there, so we can certainly talk a little bit about that. When it comes to housing trends, Michelle, like we mentioned this earlier, that there is a trend right now that to Michelle's to Giselle's point, there's like this huge migration of Black folks going into areas such as Texas, Georgia, and Florida. I did some research and I found that these three states have the highest concentration of Black people in the country right now: Texas, Georgia, and Florida. And I think it's interesting because I'm like, these are all Republican governed states as well. So it's interesting that people are moving to these places because of homes and because of availability of land, but the politics is also there as well. But what do you make of this migration, of this change from moving from West Coast? I come from Baltimore. I'm from the East Coast. People are moving out of those places to go down to the South.
Well, I think it's a number of affordability factors, right? It's not just the cost of the home, but it's the cost of living in a place and how much, you get more land. Not only do you get more land, but you sometimes will get, lower tax rates, and you certainly will have more conveniences. But the one thing that also means is that we also then lose a lot of ground in terms of community. I think about the Baltimore area, even Washington, D.C. area, where there's a lot of people that inherited Big Mama's house and they sold it for what somebody told them it was worth and moved to Prince George's County and bought a big old house. But what they have is a big old house, but they don't have a house that has like architectural uniqueness. They don't have a house that has historical value. They don't have a house that actually meant something for generations and was the first home that was in a part of a subdivision that was the first Black subdivision in this area. So I think we are trading some things one for the other. That said, we don't slight anybody, because they want to feel like they're in a place where they have more of the amenities for their kids, that they have better schools, that they have access to more communal resources, that kids can actually play outside and not have risk of being run over in traffic or whatever the case may be. So there's trade-offs on both sides. But wherever anybody is, we want to make sure that they're making smart, wise financial choices and decisions, and that they're taking advantage of all of the resources that are available to them so that they can do that.
Absolutely. And I want to get one more comment in before we close out on this part of the discussion. Mike V. Mike, good to hear from you, bro. Mike said, redlining has destroyed our community and our ability to participate collectively in ownership, and we have to have our government hold these institutions accountable. Community land trust is the first step. What's your stance on this idea of community land trust? And to Mike's point, redlining, gentrification, some of the policies and some of the strategies that have really broken up prominent Black communities throughout this country.
So I think two things. NeighborWorks was started on a model that was created by a Black woman who was fighting redlining in her Pittsburgh neighborhood because they had left her neighborhood out of revitalization in downtown Pittsburgh. And so Dorothy Richardson led the fight to make sure that they came back and invested in her community. They helped them fix their houses, and they actually invested in the infrastructure to bring whatever those resources that they were trying to put in the other communities into her community too. So that's kind of like 45 years ago, the principles that NeighborWorks America was founded on. One of the programs that we are actually focusing on right now is this idea of shared equity and community land trust, where we are looking at how we can have this equity piece. With community land trust, the nonprofit land trust owns the land and the people purchase the house. And when they leave, they take some of the equity from the house, but some of the equity remains with the land trust. But when they sell that house and that land stay with the trust. It makes it affordable for someone else to stay there because the trust isn't going to mark up the prices. It keeps the affordability of that house at a good rate. And then someone else can move into that community, gain some equity, gain some, value in their home, and then do the same thing over and over again. So it is a good model for how we can help move the needle for those communities where we think it's important that we want to be because it's safe, because it's secure, because it's part of our lifestyle, and also that it's a way for us to maintain the equity line so that it doesn't become so affordable that everybody has to leave in order to be able to find a place to live.
Yep, absolutely, Michelle. Michelle, I appreciate your time that you spent with us today. How can more people get information about the work of NeighborWorks America, your 2022 survey on home ownership? Give us all the details, sis.
Sure. So if you go to neighborworks.org, that's our website. On the front page, you'll see the information about our survey. You will also see there's the work that we do or where we work, our impact. You will also be able to connect with any of our nonprofit organizations just by putting in your zip code, and it'll tell you who's working in your area. And if not, you can also go to HUD.gov and search for a housing counselor by your zip code there as well. Because we want to make sure it's not just about us, it's about making sure people get the information they need, whether it's through us or another organization.
Michelle Hudgens checking in from NeighborWorks America. She serves as the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communication for NeighborWorks America. Michelle, we appreciate your time with us today to give us some insight about your 2022 household home ownership survey, and more importantly, to talk to us about how we can overcome the big challenges to home ownership. So thank you for your time with us, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, up next, me and Lisa are going to have a conversation. We're asking a big question, given where we are with the pandemic, inflation, and so much more. Economically, is it in our best interest to go to college? What are you telling your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews when they ask you the question, is college worth it? That's the big conversation we have coming up. So stay with us. The culture is, we'll be right back here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on that.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Rolling all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on that.
Hey, Black, I love y'all. I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Folks, I wanted to have a different conversation with us today as we continue to discuss the impact of everything from the pandemic to inflation. There's just been so many things that have been happening, and now both of these two forces, some people might describe them as crisis, but both of these two forces have shifted the conversation and the sentiment around this idea of college and going to college. So many people are asking the question, given the fact of, hey, things are more expensive. We're talking about not just consumer goods, we're talking about services. Now education is on the chopping block, and people are asking, is college really worth it? I want to have this conversation with my culture crew member. I can call her like my co-host because she's been holding it down while I was making my transition. Big Lise Winnie, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast. So Lise, thank you again for the great work that you've been doing. And
absolutely.
But I felt like this is a conversation that you and I can have as we look at where we are in this country. But people are asking the question, is college worth it? Lise, I want to get your answer to that question first, and then I want to share some stats from this new USA Today Siena College poll about this whole conversation. But do you think college is still worth it in this day and time?
I think it depends. That's a very hard question to answer straightforward. It depends. It depends on who you are, what your goals are, and what you plan to do. Because just going to college is not enough now, especially if your family did not have the money to send you to school and you did not get a full scholarship and you don't know what you're going to do when you graduate and you don't build any networks in school. Because honestly, the most important part of college is not necessarily going to get the education, because I mean that's important, but the biggest component is networking. Who went to college with you, and did you make any relationships there? That is a big part of college a lot of people miss. But I think it depends. It depends on your degree. It depends on what your goal is. So it's a hard question to actually answer.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with you on that one too, Lise, that it all depends on what you're trying to do. Here's the domino effect, Lise, that if people stop going to college, or if there is more investment into community college versus four-year institutions, right? That's going to shift the job market, right? That's going to shift the amount of money that people will make. All of these, I mean, it's like a domino effect. It's a trickle down effect that all of these things will start to change. And more importantly, here's the big thing. What do you tell people like myself and others who went through those 4 or 5 years of school? We think that we're going to be, further along in life. And then you got some people who complete maybe 2 to 3 years of school and they're making more money than you, right?
I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that feel that way. Like I've known people that didn't go to school at all. They got a business. They're doing amazing. And that's why I said it depends. It depends on who you are and what it is that you're doing. If you're going to school and your degree is paper clip counting, whatever, you might not want to pursue that degree, because at the end of it, what can you do? A lot of us go to school not really knowing what can you do with this. We're millennials. They told us up the wazoo that you have to. That's why the millennials carry the most amount of student loan debt. They told us this was your way out. And largely Black women in particular believed it. And then we realized, oh, wait, but this loan is going to be with me wherever I go. And you still have racism and sexism and all of these things, all these isms that keep you out of top paying jobs. So I think it depends. We do need to look at that. And when you do see people, some people luck up. We cannot discount the fact that there is an element of luck and success. But I would tell them, to my children, if you know what you want to do, and we do need to start looking at community colleges and not looking down on them. And then also making sure that people know in high school, what can you do? They tell us like there's 5 things and that's all we know. So what can you do with this degree instead of just do this, this, and this? What does it do?
Absolutely. I think that's the number one question. What can you do? Now, I want to share with you folks what USA Today and Public Agenda found. They put out this poll, Lise, and this is what they found. Nearly half of Americans question if the economic benefits of a college degree is worth the cost. Check this out, folks. Keenan, let's throw those stats up on the board, brother. It said that undergraduate enrollment plummets. That undergraduate enrollment has fallen by more than 1 million students in the past 2 years, in part because of COVID, and more recently, a surging workforce. The nation's $1.7 trillion student loan debt portfolio continues to balloon. So less people are enrolling, but more money is still being owed. Now, let me share with you these other findings among this poll. Check this out, folks. And this is crazy. About 3 in 4 Americans say it's a problem that employers require a college degree for jobs that don't need them. 3 in 4, that's 75%. About 66% of Americans say colleges are stuck in the past instead of meeting the needs of today's students. Roughly 83% agree the cost of college makes it difficult for low-income students to get an education. Damn. And then 3 in 5 people say getting a degree is too time-consuming and expensive for working adults.
The only person I don't want to hear say that is my doctor. I don't want my doctor to say that. Everybody else can say that, but I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. This ain't. There's certain degrees that I think you need time in.
Hey, wait. Hey, at least let's throw. All right, let's say certain degrees that you need: your doctor, your lawyer, your accountant,
and an engineer, because I don't want to be driving a car that's all made and it just falls apart.
Right. If you're having a house built, your ass needs to be in college.
Right.
But look, real talk. Like, if you're looking at the situation, there is a significant number of people that are saying, "What's the point?" Like, hey, Keenan, throw those stats back up, man. And I want us to take a look at this, man. 3 in 5 say that it's a problem that employers require a college degree for jobs that don't need them. Let me tell y'all something. Fix my chair a little bit right now, at least, because I think this is important for us to keep in mind. You have jobs in states across this country that will say, hey, you need a master's degree, and they only paying $65,000, $70,000. Back in the day, when I remember back in, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong on this. I remember back in like the mid 90s, 96 into the 2000s, if you had a master's degree, that was an automatic 6-figure job. Automatic, off the top. You're getting 6 figures, regardless of what you're doing, whether it's 100,000 or whether it's on anything above. Now, I literally have seen these master degrees for less than 100,000, master degree job for less than 80,000.
Yeah, because the employers have the leverage because they taught us that you have to go to school. So now you put all the leverage into the employer. So not only are they paying you $13 an hour with a master's degree, they want you to work 46 plus hours a week, and they don't want to give you benefits, and they want you to work every day.
Come on.
We just put all the onus on the business, and that was the only thing that was important. Now I think Gen Z, they kind of have it right in this sense that they saw what the millennials went through, and they went, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't want to carry that student loan debt, especially since I don't know what it is that I want to do. Like, I have not figured this out. And I think that there are certain degrees, and they did this before profit colleges, that they could not charge you for those degrees because they were charging you more than you could ever make. They need to also look at the degrees that they offer in these nonprofit institutions and say, this degree doesn't make any sense anymore. We need to get rid of this. They also need to add in an element of you learning how to do the job, because mostly what you learn in college is the history behind it. You learn that part, but you don't actually learn how to do the job, apply that knowledge. So when you get out, you have this degree, and then they pull the rug under you. And they're like, oh, yep, you got the degree, but you need 5 years experience for entry level. They don't offer you that. So it's a whole big thing.
Absolutely. All right, let me check in with our watchers, because everybody got something to say. Let me just tell you though, like, I got a 9-year-old and I got a 3-year-old. I am not looking forward to the day they say, Daddy, Mom, we want to go to college. Because that joint is going to be 6 figures. That joint.
Yeah.
You're like, boy, you going to tell my son, boy, you better get those mini scholarships, soccer scholarships, reading scholarships, film, like whatever you're trying to do, you want to get as many scholarships as possible. All right, so let's go to what people are checking in. Karina, always happy to hear from you, sis. Karina Denise, one of our loyal watchers and supporters of Black Star Network. She said, if not college, then definitely a trade, plumbing, auto, cosmetology, dental assistant, etc. And education after high school is necessary. I agree. I think we've ran away from the trade talk, you know what I'm saying, Lise, because a lot of people, it's like working with your hands and all of those things. And, a lot of Black folks, we found some level of success in corporate America. So the conversation about trade has kind of died down among our people because we want to get the bigger jobs, the white collar jobs. But it seems like that the jobs that our fathers, grandfathers, and grandmothers and back in the day those trade-oriented jobs, those were the jobs that sustained families, right? Whereas corporation, you can get it today and lose it tomorrow. You know what I mean? Because corporations, they open up and they close down. Grand opening, grand closing.
Right.
So,
I agree with her. I think more people need to do trades, but I think that you also have to be careful because there's a lot of people who are out here trying to sell you how to do trades. If you get into an apprenticeship, great, but some people can't. So you have to be careful with that too, because there's schools that actually will offer you degrees in plumbing, in auto, and then you'll get caught with a hefty student loan bill. But yes, trades are really important.
And I think it's important for us to make mention of this, Lise, that if you have a trade, that you should couple that with a business administration degree, a business management degree, because that trade can allow you to become a more seasoned entrepreneur if you decide to go in that direction. And, me and Nira, my wife and I, we always have this conversation. Let's stop making it seem as if being an entrepreneur is the ultimate goal. It's okay to work for somebody.
It is.
It's all right. Like, let's not have this culture where we talking about you get out of college, you need to open up your own business. That is not a path that is for everybody.
Correct. I couldn't agree more.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a path for everybody. Like, some things you're going to have, like doctors, just because you want to be a doctor don't mean you open up your own hospital.
Right. Or practice. You don't. Yeah. You don't.
Like,
you really don't.
It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not act as if working for somebody is, you working for the man.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's going to have to work for you if you open up your own business. What you going to tell them?
Right. Right.
I just want to clear that up real quick. But yeah, I agree with you, Karina. Let's get into the trade. Nicole checked in on this one again. She said some people have the gift skill sets that require them to attend college. Some people have the gift skill sets to attend vocational tech schools. I went to college. HVAC is not my skill set. Right.
Agree. We all have a set of skill, but that's what I mean by figuring out who are you, what can you do, and what do these degrees actually offer? What is it? We need to do a better job when people are in school figuring that out, because we do not do a very good job, I think, as parents, doing that exploration process of figuring out, okay, what do you want to do? What are you good at? That type of thing. We usually I want you to be a lawyer. That's it. That's what you do. And they're like, okay. That's just kind of how letting them figure that out is what we need to do.
And look, and here's the thing, as much as we like to culturally, college has always been a part of the conversation, because as a people, we know we put a great emphasis on education. Culturally, that fits. But if your college tuition is $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, somebody really does have to pay for that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that to probably be facetious. I'm just simply saying, like, you really do need to have a plan, a strategy in place, maybe plan A and plan B on either you paying for college or you figuring out what your next move is, because it's all well. I remember having these conversations. Like, I only had a few conversations with my dad about me wanting to go to college. And it always came down to who's paying for that. I was telling him the big schools. I remember I wanted to go to NYU. I wanted to go to Juilliard in New York City. I wanted to go to another school called SUNY Purchase up in upstate New York. I was thinking about UCLA. And he asked me, he's like, son, I'm the only one who paying for that.
Right.
So I had to take my dreams and I had to kind of bring them down to earth a little bit. And it's like, all right, Pop, all right, yeah, that's true. He was like, son, I'm not trying to diminish your dream, but I just don't have it. And I was a good kid in high school. I was a B student, but I wasn't being offered scholarships, and you know what I'm saying? I wasn't given extra money to
or
go
even
to school.
knowing where to look. Like, it's the same thing with the housing. Some of us didn't even know where to begin, and that there were so many scholarships out there. They don't tell you that. They only know what they know. So I agree with you 100%.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mike V checked in and said, Farajii, the difference between a black man with a degree and one that doesn't have a degree is $1 million over a lifetime. So you're talking about the earning potential, Mike, and I appreciate you pointing that out. You're talking about the earning potential of a person with a degree. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying not to go to college. I'm saying be strategic once you make that decision. But I also know that everybody is not fit for college because that's a great commitment.
Oh,
But
how many people I know had W's everywhere? I know a lot of them had some W's and then you still have to pay that back. So
you got to pay that back. But Lisa,
not deterring
but
people. No.
But check this out. Let's talk about the fact with the point that Mike bring up. $1 million over, a lifetime, right? You're talking about earning potential. What's your take on that?
As far as the potential to earn $1 million, well, I don't know what this.
Well, not the potential to earn $1 million. I'm talking about the fact is that
you earn more.
A person without a degree has a limited earning potential versus a person with a degree where they can earn, if a person without a degree, they may be able to touch 40,000. Person with a degree may be able to touch 70, 80,000.
I think it depends. It's still not clear cut. It really truly depends. Because you have a degree, which is what we were sold, it doesn't mean that somebody's knocking down your door in order to give you this money. There's only a fair amount of jobs that are at this particular threshold, and everybody's not going to get hired. So that's not 100% true for every case. But what I will say is, as long as you know what your degree can do, I know a lot of people who have degrees who are unemployed or work at the job that doesn't require a degree. So it really just depends on, like you said, Farajii, be strategic about what it is that you plan on doing once you get out of school. But you have to start that process in high school about what happens when you get out of college.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As we wrap up this part of the discussion, Lise, and I'm saying it, if there is, and we still have to have that conversation about student loan debt, if the Biden administration is ever going to do some real situation around that, right? But we do need to have a very different conversation. And I don't know if it's going to happen with the Biden administration, but there needs to be a very different conversation about education in this country. If everybody in this country knows that education, and I'm saying the cost of education is so high, I don't see why there hasn't yet to be a true revolution in that space. Why are we just tolerating it, dealing with it, instead of revolutionizing it?
Yeah.
That's the question I got.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole
nother conversation. That's a whole nother conversation. Like, why haven't we been able to have a conversation about reimagining education in this country? We all know that it's breaking us. I mentioned earlier, $1.7 trillion, and you still got schools that have actually gone up in their tuition
every year.
Like right now in 2022.
Yeah, every
year. It doesn't
year.
make any sense. Every year, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. And I'm wondering, like, if we have a real revolution in education, about education in this country, then guess what? I think everything else will fall into place. But right now, this is insanity that we're seeing right now. If you're paying $100,000 a year for college, or you're paying less than that, and that's on the extreme end, of course. But if you're paying, say, $35,000, $40,000, and then you come out of school and you don't, it's not about not working in your field, but it takes you 10 to 15 years just to pay back the loans.
Yeah. I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more.
That's all I'm doing is like, yo.
They won't allow for-profit schools to do that, but yet like public institutions are still allowed to have these same degrees where you do not have the same earning potential that you paid for it. It's absolutely insane. And I think that we do need to look at it, and you're absolutely correct.
Right. Right. Big conversation. All right, Lise, I appreciate the time you were able to spend with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you for being so good for the culture, Lise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us for today's show. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Make sure y'all continue to show your support for the Black Star Network. Go to blackstarnetwork.com to get more information on how you can support the work that we're doing here each and every day on the Black Star Network. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle. Those are the ways that you can get involved in supporting us. As you know, we are still churning out new programs each and every month. So, we got our 4 programs. You got, Get Wealthy. You got the culture. You got the Black Table. You got, Living a Balanced Life. And now you also got my sister on to talk about how you can make the best decisions and making sure that you can make those life-changing decisions with Tech Life with Steph. So, it's a lot of great things that we're doing here on Black Star Network, and we want you to be a part of the movement and the momentum here. So make sure you show your support for blackstarnetwork.com. All right, that's going to do it for me. Again, I thank y'all for your patience and most importantly, your continued support of the culture here on Black Star Network. Stay tuned at the 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time is Brother Roland with Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace. Woo!